Good evening, everybody. You are watching and listening to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. That's on Long Island, folks. You can catch Monty and the Pharaoh on the YouTube Monty and the Pharaoh page, Facebook Live on the Monty and the Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Twitch TV, Monty and the Pharaoh page, RTF Sports Network every Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. with their anchor show. The repeat on Monday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., RTF Sports Network. Also catch us on Channel 115 every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9 p.m. and for early risers Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Also catch us on Channel 20 Friday mornings on Channel 20. I'll repeat that again. That's Friday morning at 1:30 a.m. But this is also to talk about the opportunity of catching Monty and the Pharaoh on Anchor Network, where you can record and you can get your own podcast and do what Monty and the Pharaoh always dreamt to do and have this opportunity to bring out to you guys. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make your own podcast in one place. So once again, you are watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. Catch us every Thursday, 9 to 10 p.m. And catch us here on Anchor. Have a good one.
Hey, it's me, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Hey, check out my new tag team, baby, Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Jimmy, don't forget to tell them about Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Well, you know what, I would, but you already did it.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
With Monty and Pharaoh. The Monty and Pharaoh Show.
Monty and Pharaoh, bro.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Monty and the Pharaoh.
The Monty and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monty and Pharaoh Show.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
With Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
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 Monty and Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
And Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monty and the Pharaoh?
Yeah.
Monty and Pharaoh.
The Monty and the Pharaoh Show.
Monty and the Pharaoh. To the Monty and the Pharaoh Show. And it's Monty and the Pharaoh, baby.
Watching Monty and the Pharaoh.
With Monty and the Pharaoh. Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, what a run.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, cut the fucking music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're going to get it, right here.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible. Monty and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we're gonna rock it.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Duh.
Broadcast out of Indie Music TV here out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island. At the board is producer Matt. How are you, bud?
Great as always.
I always love hitting you with that. You're always in shock, like I'm going to call out your name.
Matt, are you okay today? Because I think you might be sniffling a little. You all right?
Yeah, no, just a bit of allergies.
You didn't go out drinking last night or anything?
Nah.
Okay, so you didn't do what I did. Awesome. Great.
Drinking on a Friday.
Yeah.
No surprise there.
What do you want? I work in a booze store. Go on.
To the right is the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow. Jimmy, how are you, bud?
Good morning, at least for me. Good, bro. What's going on?
And we have a special guest in studio, is former WWE superstar and ECW superstar, Mr. Al Snow. But before we get to Mr. Snow, I'd like to thank the band that sings the theme song for the Monty and the Pharaoh show, our own Jimmy Farrow, along with his partner, Bart Griggs, the band Wisteria Hall. Wisteria Hall sings such great songs as our theme song, Riding High.
Nice.
In My Dreams, This Life, Not Far Behind, Here Comes the Rain, and you can find their music on Spotify, iTunes, and Reverb Nation.
Cool.
The Monty and the Pharaoh Show can be seen on YouTube, The Monty and the Pharaoh Show, Facebook Live on the Monty and the Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Twitch TV, RTF Sports Network, their Anchor show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., Channel 115, every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9 p.m., and for early risers on Saturday on Channel 115, 6 a.m. to 6:30.
Monty time.
Right? And then Saturday morning, which is like this Saturday morning, right?
Yeah, like 1:30 in the morning.
1:30 in the morning on Channel 20.
Pharaoh time.
Where you'll be able to catch Mr. Al Snow in upcoming interviews.
That's right.
We'll get back to Mr. Al Snow right after we get to this commercial break.
Be right back. And Verola Worldwide Logistics for all your logistic needs. Please call 862-227-3670. Once again, that's 862-227-3670. Verola Worldwide Logistics. And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB. And Verola Worldwide Logistics for all your logistic needs. Please call 862-227-3670. Once again, that's 862-227-3670. Verola Worldwide Logistics.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh, only seen here out of Long Island in Ronkonkoma at Indie Music TV. And I'd like to welcome our special guest and our honor, Mr. Al Snow. Al, thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
What does everybody want?
Does that get annoying after a while?
No, not at all.
Really?
So there.
Is there anything that gets old? What?
Probably
Besides
me.
well, all of it, yeah, well, that's a good point. Me too.
Boy, did you open that door. Oh, my Lord.
Al, before we get into some wrestling, I just want to ask you, how are you holding up during the COVID era and what's going on in this country right now with the civil unrest that's going on?
I'm doing okay. I mean, it's sad to see the situations that are out there and that are existing and going on at this time. But, we're a great country. I mean, we really, truly are. For people that have not been outside of this country and seen the rest of the world, believe me, we are genuinely blessed here. We've got our problems, we have our issues, but we always see our way through it, and I think we will see our way through all of this as well.
So you think there is a future for this country?
Of course, yes.
Do you think things have changed as far as what's going on? Are people just more aware and getting involved? I mean,
Well, I think because of social media and the internet, people are more aware of everything nowadays. The access to information is unprecedented. And the level of sophistication of the general population is at a much greater rate now than ever before. People were not stupid or not less intelligent. They were just more simplistic because their worldview was limited to their access. And now we have, as a kid, a 7-year-old kid can access a real-time video of the Antarctic. So that viewpoint and that level of sophistication for a general audience or a general population is going to be exponentially greater.
Is that a good thing, though?
Absolutely, yeah. Because we have to, I think in some ways, I think it's a good thing. I think getting to where we are in society these days, in this country especially, we have it so well that we are now starting to have the ability to focus on a lot of things and be triggered or offended by the least likely comment or expression by an opposing viewpoint and lash out and try to cancel those people out as quick as possible, because we have the freedom to do it now.
Where do you feel the media falls in as far as their responsibility? While it's true that we have an absolute, almost unlimited amount of information, what concerns me is the accuracy of aforementioned information. Where do you think the media's responsibility should lie? Should there be some sort of, and this may sound controversial, but do you think the government should do something?
No.
So how do, as citizens, we properly digest all this information when we do know some of it is completely misleading?
You have to be self-responsible.
Fair enough.
It's a fascinating concept.
Fair enough.
But for every right that you have as a U.S. citizen or as a human being, you have a responsibility that is commensurate to that right. If you have a right to free speech, but you have a responsibility to use it in the correct manner.
Well, use it without an agenda, right?
Correct. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want. But you have the responsibility to behave in a civil manner by exercising that freedom, and just because somebody doesn't agree with you or doesn't see your viewpoint doesn't mean that you now have to cast stones at that person.
Right.
Because it's a two-way street. They may not agree with you, and you don't want them to cast stones at you because they just don't agree with you. You have to understand that for every right you have a responsibility.
True.
And if you're willing to give up those rights, or I should say, if you're willing to give up those responsibilities, then you're willing to give up those rights. Simple as that. If somebody, I try to explain this to my own kids. When my children were young, okay, I got to make all the decisions. The reason I did was because I bared the brunt, I paid the cost for every one of those choices that were made, because they could not make them themselves, because they couldn't bear the price. As they got older, they got to make more decisions, because they got to bear more of the consequence, more of the price of those decisions. And conversely, as they got older and older, now they're adults, they have their own kids, I can't tell them anything. I can give them advice, but I can't tell them anything because I no longer bear the responsibility of any of those choices or decisions. But the same goes as a person in the country, in a civilization, in the United States. I have a right and I have a responsibility. And if I have a special interest group that's willing to take that responsibility over for me, it means that now I no longer have the right to exercise it in the proper manner, in the way that I feel. Let's say, for instance, you have those special interest groups that are wanting to police TV and wanting to make sure your children only watch certain programming. Look, I've said this before and I'll say it 1,000 times. I've raised my kids. Okay, I've never asked the teachers to raise them. I've never asked the postman to raise them. I've never asked the neighbors to raise them. I raised them. And I raised them in accordance to what my beliefs were and my moral values. Okay? If my children were to ever look outside of my front door to you or anyone else as a role model, then I'm clearly not doing my job as a parent. I'm not, as a public figure, I am not your child's role model. I'm my children's role model, but not yours, because you should be your children's role model. No one else should be. And if your child sees me doing something that's in accordance with what you've taught them, then they should, know from your values that it doesn't suit what you've taught them to be, and not look to me to now be the person that leads them through their life. Never should your children look outside the front door for somebody else to be a role model. And you should be responsible. If there's something on TV you don't like them watching, turn the channel. Or make them get up and do it, and watch it with them. If my children are going to be screwed up and they're going to have to go to therapy, I want to be the responsible party. I don't want anybody else to be. Simple as that. And the same goes, though, for your rights with government. You're going to have those rights, you're going to have those responsibilities. If somebody goes, hey, don't worry, we'll take care of your responsibilities, guess what? Now you don't have any say in the rights.
Right. Isn't that what's happening right now, though?
Of course it is.
Okay.
Because everybody wants to be a victim now. No one wants to have self-responsibility.
Right.
Everybody wants to blame, and this is a very hot topic, but everybody wants to, the president this and the president. Listen, those people in power do not care about you. Period. They don't.
I agree.
And you think that putting a different man or a female, it doesn't matter, male, female, put a different human being in an office as president is going to change your life? It ain't. Not going to happen.
It's still the private barbecue.
You change your life. They don't do anything for you. Period. And if you think they do, ask yourself a couple questions. One, who in their right mind spends $50 million on a campaign to get a job that pays them $174,000 a year?
Mm-hmm.
You don't think there's another agenda there?
Of course.
You don't think they're going to be making that money back somewhere?
Of course.
Well, then why are we letting them do it? And why are we continuing to allow them to literally BS us? Listen, pro wrestling and politics are both a complete work. And in both of them, we have gotten to the point with such hubris that we think that we can sit there and tell our audiences, respectively, hey, it is a work, and you're still going to buy a ticket to see the show.
Right.
That's like a magician standing up on stage, sawing a woman in half and going, hey, don't worry, guys. I got the legs of this other girl through the bottom, and this other girl's up here with her knees tucked. I'm not touching any one of them with this saw. And we're just expected to go, oh, yeah, okay, I'll just accept it. And we do.
It's funny, the United States or America was built on, right, bring us you're weak and you're hungry.
You're tired, you're
but
poor.
But on the other hand, now we're saying, we'll take care of you. We'll be the government. We'll control you. We'll take care of you. We're moving away from our capitalist society to becoming a socialist society.
They're taking your responsibilities. So when they take your responsibilities, guess what else they're taking?
Your freedom.
They're taking your rights.
That's right.
Simple as that. No matter what the issue is, if somebody is willing to pay the bills for you, if someone is willing to handle your responsibilities, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not politics. That's real life. Then they get to have the say. They have the right to tell you what to do and when to do it and how to do it, because they're the ones that are paying the bills.
But do you think today's youth, like beyond us, or maybe Gen Xers or whatever, do you think they're more socially aware about human rights, maybe a little more than the three of us at our age?
I think so, because they're more, again, there's more access to more information in regards to that. And as far as the media is concerned, the media has never been a point of dissemination of information. Don't fool yourselves. The media has always been a business. If you're on TV, even if you're a news station or your news segment, you're on TV to draw ratings. You're on TV to draw ratings to garner advertising dollars. If you're selling newspapers, whether you're there to report information, you're there to report news, yes, but you're there to sell newspapers, because if you don't sell newspapers, goes out of business, and then it doesn't get to report the news. So first and foremost, always remember that what you're watching is not 100% real. It is a business. What you're reading is not 100% real. It's a business. It are points of information, but you should take your own responsibility, because you have the right to do it, and access your, and do your homework and access your own points of information as well. And then get enough to where you can conjugate some kind of an educated opinion whenever you decide to voice it in a public forum. So, call me crazy, but
I don't call you crazy.
Logical, Captain.
I mean,
and I thought we were talking about wrestling, but we got all that.
Listen, we go whichever.
So, how you holding up with COVID? How's everything going? Oh my God! Back to arm bars, please.
Jimmy's the star of the show. He's going to hit you with something called the juice.
The juice.
So in case anyone doesn't know,
that sounds kind of weird.
A little bit.
Brought me out to Long Island and have some man hit me with the juice.
Yeah, that's great.
It's not that juice.
Is that bottle full or empty?
So he's going to hit you with that, and then we'll get into some questions. All right?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen out there, once
and by
again.
the way, not to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was some great commentary, and I could not agree with you more. I would have loved to have you mention about speciesism in this country, where we talked about animals, dogs, cats. It seems like we have no problem taking down statues of history, but we have people that put our animals and make them fight each other for their own worth and greed. But that's not brought. We take those people and we honor them because they went to jail and did their time, and now they're making $25 million a year on ESPN. But let me not go further than that.
I know.
Go ahead.
You can't address all the issues involved. There are so many.
I know. We get into the universities and how they're rewriting history.
But I do think, not to belabor the point, but I do think because of the country we live in and the wealth that we do live in, it gives us a certain amount. Well, let's put it this way: Survivor is a television show here, and people that on Survivor do things on the television show to win a game.
Right.
That's how a lot of the rest of the world lives.
Because this country is based on that. Win.
Well, yes.
Win. You're a capitalist. You're a capitalist.
Yes,
I'm a capitalist. He's a capitalist.
Absolutely.
We're here to win.
I am.
Yeah.
Right? But again, we're also God's creatures, right? We have to take care of each other. When I mean God's creatures, I'm talking about human beings, animals, birds, cats, dogs, lizards, snakes, whatever they're going to be, right? So we can't pick and choose this agenda of what works for us at this time, right?
No, we can't, but most people do. So.
Thank you.
The media seems extremely selective to me.
I'm sure the fans are watching.
I just
they don't want to hear you
juice.
rant about your political
You believe
idealists.
this guy?
Yeah, you and your...
I sit here and nod for a few minutes, and they don't want to hear my take. Thanks a lot, you big windbag. Anyway.
Pharaoh's such an idealist.
I'm telling you. Anyway, folks, let's have our weekly dose of a big glass of juice. Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed guest this fine, rainy Saturday afternoon. Born Alan Ray Sarvin on July 18th, 1963, is an American professional wrestler, as we know, actor, professional wrestling trainer, promoter, and of course, better known by the ring name Al Snow. Best known for his in-ring work in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I can hear Jim Cornette right now. Extreme Championship Wrestling, World Wrestling Entertainment, of course. He's held various backstage, positions and has worked for multiple professional wrestling promotions. Also worked as a road agent for TNA, Total Nonstop Action, now known as Impact, of course, from 2010 to 2017. Wow, I never held the job that long. Nice job. And he's also, of course, the owner of Ohio Valley Wrestling. Everybody out there knows that the Pharaoh is a huge ECW fan. This is a very special moment for me personally. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest, Al Snow.
Yes, Al Snow, baby.
Doesn't it feel anticlimactic after going through all of that stuff?
Yeah, boy,
I'm telling you.
We trained you already.
Yeah.
Al Snow.
Thoughts of the state of professional wrestling?
Yeah, let's go.
The state of professional wrestling?
Yeah.
Today, this day, the state of professional wrestling.
How you feel about it? Oy.
Well, it's another loaded question.
Go for
it. There is more athletic ability that is in professional wrestling now than it's ever been in the history of the sport ever. But I think that the true art form of professional wrestling is being lost due to the fact that the entry into professional wrestling has become so accessible and easy. And the proliferation of training schools literally around the world has led itself to where you have a lot of the blind leading the blinder, and has created the degradation of what the real art of professional wrestling is.
What is the real art of professional wrestling to Al Snow?
It's not to me. This is an opinion.
Okay.
The real art of professional wrestling is to work an audience. The term work is not someone's physical capabilities, which is what now it is being attested to. To work an audience is to basically perform a con to make an audience believe a lie. And the only lie about professional wrestling is that we are actually trying to win and not lose. A competitive combat sport. That's not the case anymore. The belief is held in wrestling circles that it is now about that the wrestling business has changed, meaning we no longer are trying to sell an audience on the belief of a competitive situation. We're trying to sell them on what we physically can do. So we're no longer selling the who of the person, and we're no longer selling the why, we're simply selling the what. And nothing could be further from the truth. That's never changed. It never will change. The wrestling business has evolved. It's grown, which it's evolved over the last 100 years. Since the 1920s, it's continued to evolve style-wise. Athleticism-wise, it has been. But we've always sold the who and the why, and now we have deviated so far from that to where the performers strictly tried to sell simply the what. They do.
So that being said, do you think it was a wise investment on your end to purchase Ohio Valley Wrestling?
Yeah, I think so. We're doing great. We are the only state-accredited trade school for professional wrestling, sports entertainment, and broadcasting in the world. It took us about a year and a half to get that accreditation from the State Office of Proprietary Education, which is the office that oversees universities, colleges, trade schools in the state of Kentucky. And it wasn't easy to get. We're now with the television program as of this week. We have on 6 national networks, 6 different national networks for an access of a total of about 150 million homes. We are on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Amazon Prime internationally, and we're in 27 countries on Roku, and on Amazon Fire and Amazon Prime, 220 countries. We are just now on a all sports European sports channel called Sports International that gives us the potential access of another 690 million homes worldwide. So, is it easy? Is it challenging? It is, and it's very tough these days to try to re-educate existing talent to perform in the manner that I would like them to perform. Please understand, I'm not a guy who tells them what to do exactly in the ring, physically or anything. I just simply tell them to adhere to the fact that whatever they do, I should never ask why. I should never be sitting there as an audience member, as just a wrestling fan, and go, why would they do that? Why are they doing that? Within the context of trying to win and not lose, if I'm asking a question why that's happening, you've lost me.
Right.
And I believe that the general audience is the same way. If they're sitting there asking, why are they doing that? I don't understand. Or why is the referee not counting them out? Or why is the referee allowing them to do things that are clearly not within the rules? Then we're done. I'm not, you've lost me, and I'm not going to follow the story. If there was a story at all. So that's all I ask them to do, is not to do that. Even something as simple as, please don't knock the person down to the mat and bend over and pick them back up, unless you've done something that explains to me that you're now trying to beat the guy up as opposed to beating him, because there's something happened within the story of the match. Then I can go, oh, I get it. Well, that might cost him. You know what I mean? But don't just knock a guy down and then bend over and pick him back up so you can knock him back down again, because you've literally put him to the very place that you could beat him, and now you've turned around and picked him back up. That don't make any sense. So it's just that kind of stuff.
Do you feel OVW can get into a range of like an AEW, or get a portion of the WWE fan base? And
I don't know. I feel that almost all companies these days, I think, really, I know AEW does. I know that Ring of Honor does. I know Impact, and I'm not. Please don't misunderstand. I'm not disparaging anybody for doing it. But I think primarily their product and their approach, they market to a wrestling fan audience, strictly a wrestling fan audience. And I am consciously trying to market towards a general audience as much as possible. So, those are two different approaches. And, I think what we do in OVW appeals to a wrestling audience. I think also if you're the average person flipping through the channels and you see what we're doing there, that the biggest compliment I've gotten is that I've had people that, one, were never wrestling fans, and two, that were casual ones that have come or watched the show and then were like, you know what, I really enjoyed this because, and this was the statement, I could sit down and I could pick up on what everybody was doing, who they were, why they were doing it, what was at stake, and I could follow the stories like that. And that, for me, is the biggest compliment I could get. You know, the last thing I ever want is for you to come in and be sitting there and just be confused and be like, I don't know who to cheer, I don't know who to boo, I don't know who to, you know, want to be. I just don't. I can't follow this, and that I see happening more and more these days with other styles or other approaches, and that's what I want to try. That pitfall I want to try to avoid for us.
How do you feel about spot fests? Because that's also been part of the change in pro wrestling over the years. Of course, there's this increased athleticism. How do you feel about all these moves that in the old days would have clearly been finishers?
Well,
and they're occurring in the first minute of
hey,
a
listen,
match.
I appreciate athleticism. I
Sure.
think that I think, you know, the moves and things like that are fantastic. I just don't think that. I think that it's a big mistake to do it just to do it. You know, and that's where we get back to they're selling what they do. Okay, they're not selling it for why they do it.
Is the psychology gone in this business?
Well, it's definitely being thrown to the wayside, and a lot of it is because, you know, the general opinion is, oh, the wrestling business has changed. Back to what we were talking about, where the performers will tell you, or they've told me, you know, it's not, you know, fans, they don't care about that stuff anymore. They don't care about the, you know, why. All they want to see is cool moves. They want to see what you do. And I'm like, okay. And I always have 4 questions. And you guys can, if you have a different viewpoint, you can, you know, feel free to tell me, and because I'm a reasonable man.
Oh, Farrell will.
I'm question 1.
Looks like I'm the windbag. Go ahead, brother.
First question. Okay,
Yeah.
if what you say is true, that the wrestling business has changed.
Okay.
That the audience, the average person, no longer cares about the win and losing thing. They just want to see you do cool stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say that that's not the case. Okay, but if that's the truth, okay, why am I paying commentators to sit at ringside and basically verbally try to tell a story about how you two are competing against each other and selling it like it's a sporting event?
Where's the investment? Go
But
on.
don't you think that is also part of the fans' problem?
No.
Look, you were a lifelong wrestling fan now?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you went to Madison Square Garden, or where was the arena you used to go to?
I grew up in Ohio.
Okay, so in Ohio, which events did
Where
you
the
go?
Cavaliers play, probably.
You went to NWA events, or?
Eventually when I was older, but the original Sheik's territory was in Ohio.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
So we grew up on WWE. We're homers for WWE.
Of course. Bob Backlund.
Bob
et cetera.
Backlund, Don Morocco.
Sure.
Great
Greg
matches.
Valentine.
Right, Greg Valentine.
Yeah.
Always forgets
Those
my
matches
favorite guy.
couldn't hold up now.
What?
Right?
No, style-wise,
man.
no, they can't. They can't. The psychology of them, yes.
Yes.
But the
everything leading to the match, yes.
Yes, but and I'm not debating that.
Do you
Okay?
find those old classic matches boring?
Not at all.
Don't.
I don't. But
Okay.
we're from a different era. We're from
Okay.
a different time.
But today's fan would say, forget it, I'm out.
They might. You know, some of them would have an appreciation for it, certainly.
Right.
Some would be moving too slow for them.
Sure.
And you've got to understand that I'm not debating that you know, the style has evolved and always has. And back in the 1900s to the 20s, probably mid 20s, they were called grunt and groaners. And and you got to understand too, back in the regional days of territories, there were different territories had different styles, different approaches.
Yes.
So the grunt and groaners would grab a hold, and they'd hold it and hold it and hold it, and then they'd, you know, eventually work their way out of it into something else and stay. You know, it was very static. And then you had the Indian wrestlers, the Pelwani, who came in and they started chain wrestling, which was where there were lots of. Now it was switches, reversals, counters, takedowns, you know, escapes.
Is Antonio Rock at the beginning of the high-flying kind of guys, like the early 60s?
There was before that.
Okay.
There were guys that were well before that.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably starting in the 50s, because that was where the transition became again, where Buddy Rogers was instrumental in creating what was called sequencing, which is where in what you guys call high spots, which was 3 or 4 moves strung together, because prior to that, it was the guys would only do 1 or 2 or at the most 3 at a time, but usually it was just 1 or 2 moves and then they'd stop.
Okay.
And then 1 or 2 moves and then they'd stop. And then Buddy was one of the first ones to really use sequencing, which was where it was tackle, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss, and moved through 5 or 6 or 7 moves into an exclamation point, look like you were trying to beat the person, and then work their way back into where they go into a sequence of moves
That
again.
being the genesis, 20 years later, 30 years later, you got Randy Macho Man Savage writing compositions regarding a match. Move by move by move by move.
Yeah. And that, it's just evolved. It's to where it is today. But the problem is that even back in that day, that it was still about you're doing the sequencing to gain and then maintain an advantage to try to win. And now it's just the moves themselves, that sometimes inadvertently the performer basically buries the very thing that he just did, because he's done one big move, the guy gets right back up like nothing ever happened, and then does another big move, and then another guy gets right back up and like nothing ever happened. And then all of a sudden that guy that was having things done to him, I call it light switch wrestling, where it's click, okay, you get your offense, and now immediately I'm going to stand up like nothing ever occurred, and click, I'm fine, and I get my offense, and I'm going to do a bunch of big moves. Now click, you get your offense, and you do a bunch of big moves, then click, I get some, click, you get some, click, I get some, we go home. You know what I mean? It doesn't work because it's no longer like a real sporting event anymore. There's no one person that looks weaker and is like they're struggling to get back in the race. You can't cheer somebody on because they never look like they're near almost about to be beat, because they're too worried that they'll look weak and that they have to stand back up and do their moves, And again, to that point, if answer the first question was the commentators. The second question is, why am I paying a referee to be in the ring with you? If what you say is true, that the audience gets it, they know, and just so everybody understands, everybody's known since 1920. Okay? In 1976, when I was 12 years old, and I proclaimed that I wanted to be a professional wrestler, and I love them all dearly, but none of them were Mensa candidates, okay? And none of them were professional wrestlers. But every one of my family members all proclaimed to me, why would you want to do that? That's fake.
Well, that takes care of that question, right?
So how did they know?
Oh, my God.
Because
wait a minute. Wrestling's fake?
Yeah.
Farrell just found that out this moment right now. Way to go, Al.
Oh, come on, man.
Sorry, Pharaoh.
Dream crusher.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with WWE ECW superstar Mr. Al Snow.
I got to go cry. I'll be right back. Wrestling's fake?
Oh, my God.
That's right, folks. Canine Corral. For all your dog daycare and overnight care, call 631-549-1544. That's 631-549-1544.
Jimmy, I got to take a dump.
What?
No, I mean I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP. The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Take it easy, Typhoid Mary.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty and the Pharaoh, seen only here at Indie Music TV, with a special Saturday edition with WWE and ECW superstar Mr. Al Snow.
And
very
magician to the
engaging
blind.
conversation, my friend. Thank you so much. Question 3 and 4.
Question 3. As a promoter, if what you say is true, everybody all knows, they're in on the rib, they know it's a work, they don't pay to believe in it anymore, they just want to see you do your cool stuff. I get it. Then why am I buying championship belts for you to work up your way up a competitive ladder to become the champion of something if nobody believes in that and nobody's buying a ticket to see it.
Speaking of that, the importance of a championship belt.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
please.
We got different sections in wrestling where it got really big, then it kind of shrinks up and big, and we're in a COVID era now. We know what's going on, but when they felt they had to turn over these belts, even though it was doing well for ratings and everything else, it killed the huge Intercontinental champion
the worth
fans.
of the belt.
Right, loved it to death.
Yeah.
That belt is useless.
It kills me.
Yeah, it's it again though. That's the, if you don't place it like it's a competitive ladder, being to where, because used to that Intercontinental Championship was like it was the next step just below the World Heavyweight title. Now it's just they're a prop and we'll throw it on so and so. And
your opinion on 50-50 booking, because I believe that's what ruins the belts.
I do. I believe it ruins matches.
Yes.
Ruins
characters.
Yeah, it ruins characters.
Credibility.
You need to. People need to at certain times look certain ways, and do certain business. If I'm going to book you as the next heavyweight champion, I need you 6 months ahead of time wrestling like you are the heavyweight champion, so that when I finally shoot the angle to where you're going to wrestle the heavyweight champion, no one in the audience goes, "What?" They all go, "Yes, here's our chance.
Finally,
we're going to see somebody that might be able to take the belt off,
Yes.
even if the babyface is the champion." Well, oh my God, now the babyface is in trouble because this guy clearly could be the next heavyweight champion. He's a threat. There's that. That's called heat. Heat's not what the wrestlers think today, that it's a step in a match that they've been taught, that stupid 7-step formula, or
7-step formula,
or it's the heel's offense. That's not heat. Heat's a want. It's a need. It's a desire. And the art of professional wrestling is telling a story within the context of a competitive situation and creating heat in that story by teasing the audience with something they want and then taking it away, making them want it, making them think they're going to get it, and at the last second taking it away.
NWA theory, WWE theory, or WWF, we just say WWE. Vince McMahon's theory, babyface champion.
Yeah.
Churning the
and
bad
that just
guys.
depended on the territory.
Which do you feel? Which was the NWA theory? Bad guy champion,
Back in the
faces
day.
chasing the bad guy.
Well,
which was better?
There was a big difference between the two, not in babyface and heel, but in the fact that back in the day, you had a traveling champion for the NWA.
Right.
Okay. In WWF, you had a promotional champion that stayed within the promotion, and you saw them on a very frequent basis. So it worked better for a longer run to have your champion be the babyface in a promotional situation to fight off different challenges, the heels and the various heels that would come in, as opposed to you had a traveling champion that really in some territories came in and was the babyface, and in some territories was, of course, the heel. It just varied, but that was, you had to have the traveling champion that really knew how to really adjust and adapt to each different environment, because each city, each night, each audience is going to be different, and in a promotional situation, a lot of times it's better to put that belt on. In WWF it worked, and was they had babyface champions had longer runs.
We hated it
in AWA.
Backlund.
Vern put the belt on Nick Bockwinkel for years, and,
about 5,
and was able to maintain it as a draw as well.
Right.
So,
no, he didn't have as big of a map to cover as NWA, AWA, right?
No, because NWA was not a promotion. NWA was an association of promoters.
Right. Right.
And
Understood.
So, if you were the World Heavyweight Champion for the NWA, I mean, you were, Flair was out there traveling 250 days a year.
Right.
Because all those promoters wanted him because the world title actually meant something, was a draw, and it would bump up the houses.
And you'd
when the
see them
champion would come in.
WCCW. You
So
see them
you're
Florida
saying-
Championship Wrestling.
So you're saying the NWA champion was like an Andre the Giant or Bruiser Brody, like that traveling? Yeah, gotcha.
Oh yeah, and if you were a promoter in the NWA, you wanted access to that champion. AWA was a promotional champion. WWF champion was a promotion champion. NWA was an actual, traveling world champion. So my last question for the performers out there who actually believe that wrestling has changed and that it's not about winning and losing and they don't care, and I just asked the question of why do I have a referee in the ring anymore? Because you're going to ignore him anyways, and you're going to do stuff right in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make him useless.
Mm-hmm.
He has no real authority, and if he has no real authority, you can't generate any real heat. But my biggest question to guys out nowadays, guys and girls, is if what you tell me is true, then why do you get the boo-boo face when I ask you to lose?
You get boo-boo face, huh?
Oh, they get the big pouty lip.
No, because you know what? There's credibility in winning, and
no, there's not.
You
can't have it both ways now.
He's got him.
You're right.
He's got him.
You can't tell me that, hey, it's not that the fans don't care and they're only here to see the cool moves, and I can ignore the referee, and then I can just get up after you've given me 32 big moves and act like it never happened, because the only reason I'm going to give you 32 big moves is so that it looks like I have a chance of winning and you're in trouble and you might lose. But if you just stand up, well, that all goes away. But now you're going to wrestle like that, but now when I ask you to lose, you're going to get upset and be like hurt, and you're going to, you're trying to bury me. No, I'm not.
Just out of curiosity, how high is the percentage of boo-hoos coming from this up-and-coming crew?
Oh, there are plenty of.
So what are you saying, 85% of them go boo-hoo when they told they're going to lose about this is terrible. What a bunch of whiners. Get out there and do your
when
job.
When you're booking, you even lost the effect of the count-out or the DQ. Whenever I see a match go to a DQ, the fans like, ridiculous. This is the way you're supposed to be dragging everybody back, right?
You're correct. That's to create heat. Yeah. And again, it's not my circus, not my monkeys, so I don't care. You know what I mean? But I saw, was watching it briefly because I really honestly don't get much of a chance to watch anymore. But was watching a show, and they had the main event was going to be it was a Falls Count Anywhere match with AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Okay. Yeah.
They had shot the angle. They had done the whole thing, right? Three matches prior to the Falls Count Anywhere match, which is basically, that the action can spill out of the ring and, it can happen, anything goes.
Yep.
I basically see all three matches prior to this fight on the floor repeatedly for extended periods of time. I'm not making this up.
Yeah, sure.
Okay? Fight on the floor every match, not just one. Every match.
That's brilliant.
Okay, and then after the AJ Styles Shinsuke Nakamura, I see a match with Roman Reigns and I think Samoa, and they did bigger and more impactful stuff in an attack on the floor than they did during the match that was supposed to do stuff on the floor.
Oh, boy.
And every match today, okay, for just my criticism, is that every match today it takes a formulatic approach, and they follow a 7-step formula. They either follow the 7-step formula, or they do the light switch wrestling. Oh, I'm good. Okay, I'm bad. Okay, I'm good. Okay, I'm bad. And they all go to the floor. So now, if I've seen 10 matches, and every match has had false finishes, which aren't false, because the only way that a false finish can be a false finish, is if you really. Somebody kicked out of your actual established finish.
Right.
That's when it's false, because we thought for sure
you were done.
Yeah. Not well. He just hit a big move and covered him.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's not a false finish. That's you hit a big move and covered him, and he kicked out, and people reacted, but that they didn't really believe, because a false finish would be, Jake Roberts hit 100 people with the DDT, beat 100 people clean with the DDT. He DDT'd this guy, and the guy kicked out at 2 3/4.
Right.
That's where people go, oh my God, I can't believe it.
Right.
That's where it's false, because they thought it was an actual finish.
Right.
So if every match has that, every match has fights on the floor, Everybody ignores the referee.
So, how do you explain
the
that a
stipulations.
veteran like Shawn Michaels? I know you're not really watching the product.
Yeah,
but
I'm not, no.
Recently, Randy Orton, I guess the old kick to the face that he uses
punt.
is one of the punt.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels sold the punt.
According to
And this is a
some.
veteran.
I
know,
wasn't. We both
we
did
kinda,
feel
yeah,
that
right.
that was an overreaction from the marks out there. That
Yeah.
because normally they're knocked cold, unconscious.
Right.
Sean, dazed, struggled, pulled himself up on the ropes, and fans were mad that he wasn't, carted out on a stretcher.
Well, there's a portion of the vocal minority that were upset. There were
Thank you.
the general audience probably loved it, and it was a bit of drama.
Right.
And you can do those things. I mean, as long as you don't whore it out, as long as it's done at the right time for the right reason with the right guy, it helps to build that heat. You have those magical moments. You know what I mean? But when it happens, okay, same example, like when the thing that truly got Mick Foley over was when he took that bump off the cage, but that wasn't the thing that got him over. It was when they were legit taking him out on a stretcher, and he got off the stretcher and climbed back up the cage.
Yes. Huge.
That's what got him.
Wow.
Yes.
But now, how many times have we seen Hell in a Cell matches? And every Hell in a Cell match, it's somebody takes a bump off the top of the cage,
Right.
and they end up making it a point to not even have a reason to climb up there, and they climb up there anyways, and they take a bump off the cage. Well, now it's meaningless. It's
'cause
just a big stunt.
You're going back to story writing, right? It's the writers.
Yeah.
It's not the writers; it's the performers.
So you say the writers are writing and the performers is doing what they want to do?
Listen, once the wrestler walks through the curtain, there is nothing. I cannot emphasize this enough. There's nothing anyone can do to help them, and there's nothing anyone can do to hinder them. Period. It is 100% in their hands. This idea, this idiocy of blaming the writers or blaming Vince is ridiculous. You walk in the ring as a performer, it is your world, it is your canvas, and you can paint that picture any way you want. And the amazing, magical thing about professional wrestling is if you sell who you are effectively, okay? That's the number one thing, okay? If you sell who you are, then they'll believe in anything you do. I can prove it. I've made an amazing living being able to knock another human being out with a plastic head. Now, let me tell you something. Now, this may come as a shock. Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret.
Okay.
I can't really knock anybody out with it.
With a plastic
Okay, I can't even knock out a toddler. I've tried.
Really?
All they do is they fall down and start crying, and their parents start talking about calling the cops and stuff. You know what I mean?
You mean that thing doesn't hurt?
It does. I mean,
Okay.
don't get me wrong. It'll hurt.
God, don't.
But it does not knock you out.
Right.
Okay? Tommy Rich got color for it one night. It did not split him open. Okay?
This is terrible.
But I can hit somebody with it, and people will believe it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
To this day,
Right.
they will believe it. You know? Because they believed, at that time, they believed in who I was. And if you ask 9 out of 10 people, which, hey, even my psychiatrist would agree, they thought I was insane. So, you know, part of that was because the commitment to what I sold. I didn't go on social media and stooge it off. You know, social media wasn't as big back then, but, you know, you as a person, so that's like blaming social media and saying it's the problem.
Right.
No, it's not. It's you using it. The way you use it's the problem. That's the issue.
Have you ever been handed a plot line beforehand, and you thought to yourself, "How am I going to make this work?"
Plenty of times. I mean, come on. If you think back to some of the absurd stuff that they
Pepper.
had me do,
I mean, what'd you do when you first heard about Pepper? And
I was like, well, I was just like, we need trained animals. And that clearly didn't happen. But you know, they came to me with the whole idea of the European title, and you know, you're going to go out representing a different country every week, and you know, I remember them pitching the idea to me and took me in Louisville, Kentucky, and had me record what does everybody want, what does everybody need, in all these different languages to play.
Cool.
As
That
I
is
went
cool.
out.
That's very cool.
And at the time, you know, the first time I went out, I felt so. I was like, man, this is so stupid. But to this day, I can't tell you the number of people that go out of their way to come back up to me and go, oh, that time you were the European champion was so entertaining. It was so much fun. because they were able to, let's face it, I was crazy, so they could get away with making me do crazy things that a lot of other characters on the show could not get away with doing. Mick was in the same situation.
Yeah.
He was crazy, so he could be, when he was Dude Love, and he was, he was different characters, and nobody blinked an eye, and they still bought into and believed in who he was, so they believed in what he was doing. He cannot, granted, go where he keeps that sock, which is down in the front of the crotch of his pants. I never would want it stuck in my mouth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it did, I would certainly give up quick, or pass out. But think when you were just wrestling fans, what made you buy a ticket? It wasn't what those guys did; it was who they were.
Well, we were invested in the character.
And
yes, we were.
And let's face it, every major star in professional wrestling, or literally any form of entertainment, are people that you can turn to your friends and family and can describe in a sentence or less.
Mm-hmm.
Well, name one wrestler today that you can do that with.
Well, I'll disagree one point. I think the women
think about that.
Still have that character build, in my opinion, right?
To a degree they do, but then they, a lot of, and this again is not an admonishment of them. I've always been very vocal about it when I've trained girls. I've trained tons of them. I've always said, don't forget to be a girl. Okay? That's not a sexist thing.
Sure.
Okay? Girls do fight different than guys. I mean, they fight more emotionally. They will cut a promo on you as they're beating you up, and where guys will just be punching you, you know what I mean? Girls still have to retain that thing, that femininity quality, as opposed to just being a really adept guy with boobs out there. You know what I mean?
What was your thoughts when Ronda Rousey came to the WWE?
I thought she was awesome.
Yeah, she was.
I swear to God, I think she is she was such an amazing worker.
Yeah.
And you know why I mean worker? Because what she did looked like everything she did was to win.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not did it look like she was really punching the guy, because what she did physically looked perfect. No daylight, no nothing. But she looked like she was using it to beat the person, not just beat them up. And that's what I've been trying to get across during this whole conversation, is is what everyone else has departed from.
That's where the women have it, right? Sasha Banks cares that she doesn't have her title.
Right.
Right, there's emotion in her face.
Right.
Like, they still get it, where the men are kind of floating out.
Yeah, that's what sells. It's the emotion, it's the why. You can never get heat if there's not the why.
Yes.
If as a heel, as a heel in wrestling, my whole job in wrestling was to give myself the why to do something. I didn't just go out there and cheat. I was able to wrestle, as opposed to nowadays where, according to the first step of the formula, is that the shine, where the babyface can out-wrestle the heel, which means the heel is completely inept and can't perform physically at all. He can't do any offense. He can try, but the babyface just does all his stuff.
Right.
He shines. Which is a ridiculous term, but I could go into that whole thing.
Well, I'm gonna go hard right on you, right?
Sure.
So we're very pro Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Some people aren't.
Listen. Everybody who is a wrestling fan and everybody who is in the wrestling business should get down on their knees and say thank you to Vince McMahon, because
Amen.
if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the business that we have right now. And when he gets back on top, the rest of the wrestling business will be back on top again.
So I ask you this then.
Yeah.
Does Vince owe wrestlers like yourself, superstar Billy Graham, Baron, whoever, does he owe them lifetime medical insurance and lifetime pensions? And does he need to pay these guys back more? Or is it, hey, look, you're working. You even said yourself, you made a lot of money hitting people over the head with a head.
Yeah.
Does he owe the ex-wrestler anything?
No, he doesn't. Can he? Could he? And does he? Yeah, he does. And he's very philanthropic. He's very magnanimous in that regard.
He does help people.
He does.
Can you tell a couple of stories, please? Because we get destroyed over defending who I believe is the greatest thing that ever happened to pro wrestling.
Amen.
In so many ways. I'm sorry if you feel that way out there, folks, but too bad. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I've heard and seen him. He has taken care of a lot of the boys and a lot of people. And nobody knows of it. He doesn't make it well known. the but if that were the case, then music producers need to they owe a debt for the rest of their lives to every music act.
Recently, we lost Kamala, right?
Yeah.
Kamala broke. GoFundMe page.
Yeah.
A lot of the wrestling experts out there saying, Vince McMahon didn't pay the guy, used him up.
Hogan got all the money during the program, blah, blah, blah.
Well, because Hogan was the guy that was the draw.
Right.
I mean, Kamala did make good money, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about it because people that worked with Hogan, everybody wanted to work with Hogan because you got better payoffs.
Everybody wanted to be on the card, even if they weren't facing Hogan.
The entertainment industry is not Walmart, okay? It is not a job. You're not hired. You're not fired.
Right.
You're not employed. These are facts, okay? The promoter creates a platform. And this isn't because I'm one now. It's because this is how I was taught. Promoter creates a platform, TV-wise and etc., and you are the product. You go on the promoter. The promoter decides to take you on because he thinks between the two of you, you guys can make money. Okay? He is going to put you on his platform, give you the opportunity to sell yourself and make yourself an attraction. The better and more successful you are at doing that and creating a product that he can then, together with you, capitalize on and profit from and exploit, then that's what you do. The problem is that you're a product. And no matter what the product is, it has a certain shelf life. And then that run is done, and you've got to figure out another way to reinvent yourself and start again, and get another run. Now, with the success that WWE has had, financially it would not hurt them to be able to provide health insurance for the wrestlers, not because of the fact that they have to because they're employees or something like Walmart does, but because of the fact that they're protecting their own investment by making sure that these guys are taken care of if they get hurt or injured or keep their health up so that they can continue, have a longer run and they can make more money off of them down the road. And then on the backside, if we as wrestlers, which is never going to happen because we're all too self-centered because we're entertainers, do much like the actors have done, and we create like the Screen Actors Guild for wrestling, and we create our own union, that we would take care of ourselves. And so we have an organization.
But why? I understand you say you're egotistical, whatever, but what's the real reason the pro wrestler cannot unionize?
Because they don't want to. They don't want to.
Why?
Because we're all out for ourselves.
Because you don't want to be capped, right? You don't want union wages. You want to be able to make as much money as you humanly possibly can.
I think
right?
I don't know all the details with the Screen Actors Guild, but I mean, there are those actors that are in the Screen Actors Guild that they're not capped. I mean, they negotiate far better deals.
Is it just out of fear for their personal jobs and that
I think initially
retribution would not be pleasant? I'll tell you that.
I think initially, yeah, because the ones that first step up and are going to be the ones that are going to get whacked.
Was Hulk Hogan right or wrong? Back in the day, there was these rumors, of course, and they've been, substantiated over time, that Jesse Ventura and a few others were going to form a union, and all they needed was Hogan's approval. And because Hulk Hogan said no way, that led to them being, they needed Hogan. Did Hogan do the wrong thing or the right thing?
It's possible. As far as him, whether or not that did happen, I know that Jesse Ventura has been very outspoken about wanting a union for a very long time. Did it happen? I don't know, because that would be speculation on my part.
Right.
Was it right or wrong? That again, I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if it would. I think, and this is my opinion, I think a lot of what we see today that we're talking about in wrestling right now, I think goes back to, and please understand, it's not a bad thing, but it's also a negative thing in a way for the wrestlers, and that is when we had the creation of the downside guarantee for contracts. So a downside guarantee, for those that don't understand or don't know, is that for WWE you get a downside guarantee when you're brought in. meaning you'll make no less than a certain amount of money.
Okay.
Well, the problem is for the wrestler, and I don't even think a lot of them realize it, and until they're out of it, that it now creates the connotation that you have something to lose. So when you go to the ring, you're now not performing, taking chances to become the thing that will draw money. What created a Steve Austin, was what created a Hulk Hogan. It is what created a Roddy Piper, is what created a Ric Flair. Do you understand?
Yeah.
When you go out there, you're doing everything you can to be the star, not just a star, but you're trying to be the star because you know you're going to make the most money. You understand? But now if you are already making a certain amount, you have something to lose. So now you're performing in a little safer manner. You're not taking those chances on the mic as much as you would normally because you're afraid you'll get heat. You're not taking those chances in the ring. You know, you're more worried that you might miss a spot with a guy who will go back and will bury you to the office for messing up a finish or messing up a high spot. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Because you have something to lose. And that downside guarantee is a lot more money than what you'd have ever made anywhere else at any other point in your life. So it carries a lot of weight now. So now you're not going to take those risks. Now you're not going to take those chances, and we miss those magic moments that you see the creations of The Rock, you see the creations of Mick Foley, you see the creations of Steve Austin, you see the creations of Hulk Hogan, those were all born out. Those people weren't, contrary to popular belief, Steve Austin was not, like when he came in, was not set there and, hey, we're going to take this guy right to the moon. You understand? He made it his own. During what you think is a PG era now compared to the In Your House era, that was whitewash, complete PG back then. And for him to go out there and cut a promo where he took a risk of offending the religious section of the audience and cursing, because nobody cursed at all on there. And, and Vince was not happy about it. So, he took an awful risk. But if he didn't have, back then you signed a WWF contract, it was 12 dates at $100 a date, and that was just the TV dates. You weren't guaranteed anything else. Nothing.
Just
magic, right?
Just to get this clear, that infamous moment where Stone Cold said, Austin 3:16 says, "I just whipped your ass."
Yeah.
Vince McMahon was mad.
Yeah. From what I've heard, he was very
interesting.
He was not happy about that.
Very interesting.
He was not happy about it. He had to be convinced, by a lot of people that let him run with it.
10 years later, Vince is wrestling God.
Yeah,
with Shawn and I'm confused.
There's the upside to it. There's that safety.
Yeah.
But with that safety becomes something that you can lose. So now you're not going to have performers.
It almost sounds like a pitch count. In a baseball analogy, it's like, you better not throw 120 pitches. You got to blow out your arm. You got to get your contract minimals in.
To be fair, too, for today's wrestler, we brought this up before. You run an organization and you hire me to write for you, and I'm like, all right, Al, I got this great idea.
Sure.
What we're going to do is we're going to have Jimmy. He's going to have his own spot.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring this dude from the islands in. He's going to throw some bananas at him, make fun of him, and then hit him with a coconut. You ready to go with this? What are you saying?
Holy Roddy Piper.
Yeah, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's a saying in the business that it's always better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And I'll guarantee you that Roddy Piper and Jimmy Snuka didn't ask anybody to do that. I guarantee you that there are lots of moments that you remember to this day that the performer never stood back and went, "Hey, I've got this idea. Why don't we?" They just went out and did it.
Yeah, but my point is, people weren't insulted over it; they were angry, and they wanted to see Jimmy kill this guy for what he just did to him. Right?
Sure
it was
did.
wrestling.
Right.
If this happened today, you would have
advertisers
running away from you.
Maybe. It all depends on how it's done and how the performer does it, and that's the risk of the performer who has to take that shot. You know what I mean? And he'll either rise to the top, or it'll be something that'll burn him to the ground.
When a wrestler takes a big shot, and of course he hasn't turned out so great, what was your thoughts when you saw the penis flip from Joey Ryan?
I thought it was hilarious, and I thought, good for him, because he got on. He he was the first professional wrestler who got covered on ESPN when he did it.
Right.
But again, professional wrestling, once you get in the ring, it's your canvas. You can do anything you want. But you understand, you're going to do it to a marginalized audience. For instance, I always tell guys this, and this will explain exactly what I'm talking about. During ECW, but prior to that, because I had a really bad attitude, which was my own fault because I was pointing the finger at everybody but myself, okay? When I was in WWF, I made a smart-ass remark in catering to Cornette about the fact, because they were doing the angle where everybody had all these gangs, okay? And I made a comment to Cornette that I was going to start my own gang, and I was going to call it the Job Squad, and that was going to be me, Barry Horowitz, Candido, we're going to be the top, the most powerful group in wrestling. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Look, Undertaker goes out there and he tombstones Barry Horowitz, and Barry stands up, dusts off his hair, and walks out. Who had the power in that match?" Yeah. Because there were some guys at that time in the company that really thought they were winning, and that other guys were really losing. And I'm like, "You're out of your mind."
Wait a minute.
Right? So it caught on in ECW. The guys all loved it there, and they're like, "You need to make T-shirts." I go, "Okay." I finally made T-shirts. But this is when the internet wasn't really, the internet like it is now.
It was in its infancy.
Okay? It was in its infancy.
Yes.
Okay. And I basically only sold these T-shirts at shows and on the internet. $25 a piece. I sold from May to October about 3,500 shirts.
Wow, nice.
At $25 a shirt. I'd say that's pretty good, don't you?
Great.
Okay.
Kidding me?
So I signed a contract to go back to WWF. They want to license Job Squad, so I do, right? So here was the problem. They did not know how to market or sell it to an average general audience. It was a gimmick that was only if you were a wrestling fan, a smart wrestling fan, did you get the joke. You got the gimmick of the Job Squad. Now, you can make a choice, much like with Joey Ryan. You can make a choice, and you'll be successful. I was successful, obviously. I sold over 3,000 shirts in a matter of 7 months or something like that. So I think I did pretty good.
Yeah.
But do you want to be Job Squad successful, or do you want to be Steve Austin T-shirt successful? Steve Austin's T-shirts weren't in just Hot Topic. They were in Spencer's Gifts. They were in JCPenney's. They were in Lazarus, Macy's, Walmart, Target. They were everywhere. And you get to make the decision. Based on what you want to do and how you want to perform it will dictate how well you sell to how much of an audience there is for that. So you can go out there and dick flip people all day. But you're only going to be to a marginal line. I love Joey. I know him personally. Okay. I won't book him in OVW. The reason I wouldn't book him in OVW was and people asked. They were like, some of the boys, "Hey, why don't you bring in Joey Ryan?" I'm like, "I can't." "Why not?" "Well, because I'm trying to market to a general audience, and that means Mr. and Mrs. Walmart. They ain't going to dig bringing their kids to a show and watching a guy have somebody grab his dick and throw him across the ring with it."
There you go.
I said, that's going to turn off a bunch of people. I said, I can't put him on our TV, because if I put him on our TV and do that, it's going to turn off a bunch of people.
Do you feel the same way about Orange Cassidy?
No.
I know it's a little different, but he's got the hands in the pockets.
Same thing, and it's working for him. God bless him. Good for him. You know what I mean?
He's not for you, though.
It's not that it's not for me.
Okay.
I'm not booking for me.
Understood.
I enjoy it. I like him.
Gotcha.
I like what he does.
It's hilarious.
But
go on.
If you're Mr. and Mrs. Walmart, okay, I'm now, we're on 6 different national networks. As of this past week, we're in 150 million homes nationwide. Okay? You used to play football in high school. You did a little bit of wrestling. You're about 260 pounds. You're a plumber for a living. You come home, you flip through the channels, and you see this guy who is supposed to be in a competitive combat situation, walking around with just his hands in his pockets.
Thank you. You're destroying the sport.
That's what
it comes down to.
But if you can do it, if it's done in the right way, and what he looks like they've done with him is the right way. I mean, they've done it. What he needs to wrestle, he does, and he comes up with creative spots
Again, to be
They
honest,
have presented him.
To be honest with you, Al,
They have presented him.
Be honest with you, Al, when
I
you
mean,
kick a guy in the shins like you're barely
Well,
touching
that
him,
too, yeah.
I kind of, like,
That doesn't hurt?
We could get into this, but anyway, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and then we're back with superstar Al Snow.
Jeff Quest, graphics design, custom vinyl lettering, and all your art and video needs. 516-317-8204. That's for Jeff Quest, graphic design.
In the mood for a freshly roasted cup of coffee? www.offtherrailscoffeeroasters.com. You want to star in your own success? Call QuickCast. www.quickcast.com. 866-7-CAST-NOW. That's 866-7-CAST-NOW. QuickCast.
Start your own success.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty and Faro seen only here out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma. We have a special Saturday edition with WWE superstar and ECW superstar Al Snow and owner of OVW. Let's not forget that.
No.
Al, who's your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers?
Ooh.
Mount Rushmore of professional wrestlers?
All right.
In terms of draw?
Just your four.
All right, so
who's the four that best represent to you?
Hold on. My Mount Rushmore doesn't. It's not the best wrestler. It's not the one that drew the most money. It's not the best on the mic. It's that combination guy.
Oh.
Period. So we could break it, but who's those guys?
Those guys? A guy like that would be like a Terry Funk, a Randy Savage.
Okay, there's two.
Let me think here.
We got two.
Like a Dynamite Kid.
Ooh, three. Wow.
Kurt Hennig.
Wow.
Love it.
How do you argue with any of those guys? Well,
Can't.
No, not really. Wait.
Jerry Lawler.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? I'd replace Funk with Jerry Lawler.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Older I get, the more I appreciate just how truly talented he is. And if anybody doubts that, ask yourself, why does Vince keep him for all these years, not just on commentary? Because you got to understand, okay? And think. Whenever Vince needed a heel to get heat, he put Jerry in the ring, and no one, not even you, ever questioned, hey, wait a minute, he's a commentator, what's he doing in the ring?
Never.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Not once.
Right.
And if you needed a babyface to get over, he'd come in as the heel. He'd get the guy over. Not once did anyone in the audience go, hey, wait a minute, why is a commentator getting in the ring and wrestling?
Not to mention it's WWE guys, right? Through the magazines, we always knew how important Jerry Lawler was to this industry.
I mean, think about, and
Jerry Lawler,
in
one
the
of the greatest
run that he
wrestlers
had,
ever.
listen, in Memphis, they sold out the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum, guys, every Monday night, 52 weeks in a row for 5 years straight.
Wow, forget it.
That's astounding, so to be able to talk and to be able to continuously generate in the same town every week a sellout of that magnitude is insane. I mean, 52 weeks a year.
And the heat that he generated with the Kaufman thing, come on, this guy was breaking barriers way before so many others.
I mean, Jerry's he's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
He really is.
My last question to you is, how do you keep yourself in such great shape?
And
I just
wish
need
I was.
to know, did you ever hit the juice?
Oh,
what's that?
Did you ever hit the juice?
Well, I do testosterone replacement therapy now because I'm 57.
talking like maybe some human growth hormones back in the day.
Back in the day when Warrior was running around shaking
No,
arms and shit
I
like
know,
that.
no, I did do the juice, as you want to call it, a little while. One time it was in my 40s because I've talked about it before. I've had a couple strokes years ago.
Dear God.
And I had atrophy down this whole side. That's how I found out about it.
Man.
Was I thought I had a pinched nerve, and they were like, well, it can't be a nerve. You might have, what they say, it was something crazy like you might have multiple sclerosis or something. And then they're like, oh, no, you just had a couple minor strokes. I'm like, oh, well, good.
Oh, you just
I go,
sure.
is that going to get worse? They go, no. I go, is it going to get better? They go, no.
Okay.
I go, well, that's better than the other one. So, but they said they would treat it with steroids. So I took them for a period of time to try to offset the atrophy down this side of my body. And but I take a small dose of testosterone because I'm 57 years old.
How are you
now.
keeping yourself in such great shape, though?
Quite honestly, several years ago, I stopped working out like a bodybuilder. I tell people this all the time because I have guys who will, some of the boys be like, hey, yeah, and they all expect me to tell them some some secret drug or something. And I go, here's what I'm doing. And they're like, and then I never hear from them again. And it's like, so I stopped.
He's bullshitting.
Like he's
3 bowls of rice a day.
And I'm like, I
Hubba
do
Bubba?
tell the truth.
When you showed up on TNA, I lost it. That was not. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But I was like, "What the?" You even called me like, "Al Snow looks huge."
Well, because I literally I went. I had a short time. Muscle Fitness had this strongman workout, so I got really fascinated with, training like a strongman. So I went back and I Googled like old time strongmen and old time wrestlers.
Right.
And like the 1800s and 1900s, like really
like Farmer
back.
Burns.
Farmer Burns.
Nice.
And if listen,
go I know that
Google
stuff.
George Hackenschmidt.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
if you see a picture of him, and I was like, whatever this guy is doing, because they didn't have steroids then, so you can't make that claim.
Right.
He didn't know calories, didn't know protein, didn't know nothing.
Built like a brick house.
$1 million, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna start doing that.
Yep. Nice.
So I'll literally.
Yep.
I got all these old training manuals off the internet of guys, George Hackenschmidt and guys like that, and I just started training like that.
Look at you.
And that's quite honestly, like, that's what I do. I have not done a bench press in probably God knows how many years.
Really?
Yeah, it's an
got me
ego.
fooled.
It's an ego lift. And when are you in real life ever going to lay like this and do this? Unless you're underneath a car.
Hey,
you know what? That sucks, man. That you say that. You're right. It is an ego lift. It's like, let me see what I can push off my chest.
Now, if I'm going to do any type of press, I'll do dumbbell presses and things.
Yeah.
But I won't take a straight bar and do that because it's going to use the least amount of the musculature that I have, and it's going to do is put most of the force on my joints and my shoulder and my elbows. I'm not going to, I can bench press 400 pounds. Okay, big deal. But I do tons of push-ups. If I want to do, like I said, if I want to do anything, I'll do that with dumbbell presses, things like that. But I use kettlebells. I use Indian clubs. I use mace.
Cardio?
No, I don't cardio. Because what I tried to do is I tried to do all functional or all combination lifts like deadlifts, squats, push-ups, things like that. And I'll either use the Tabata method, or I'll do sometimes like I created this. It's a 30-minute challenge, which is I used to do it when I would be on the road on a regular basis. And that is you'd start out, you do 10 free squats, you do 10 because usually it has a hotel gym. It's got always up to a 50-pound dumbbell. So you do 5 rows on your right side, 10 push-ups, 5 rows on your left side. You do inverted shoulder presses for 10. Then you stand up and you do dumbbell curls for 10, alternating dumbbell curls for 10. Wow. So that's one round. You try to do 10 rounds in 30 minutes or less.
Oui.
If you get, the best I've ever done is 14 one time in 30 minutes. So that means I did 100 squats, I did 100 push-ups, I did 100 rows, I did 100 shoulder presses, and I did 100 curls. And you do that in 30 minutes. You're sweating, you're breathing, your heart rate's up.
Wow.
And
I could probably smoke about 5 cigarettes while he's working out. That's about half
or
an hour.
the old. Just
My
the last
cardio
couple
going.
days, I haven't done this in ages. I take 2 decks of cards and shuffle them, and then just take the card off. And if it's a face card, 2 through 10, you do the number. If it's a queen, jack, queen, king, 15 reps. If it's an ace, it's 21.
Wow.
And then squats every time. I'll squat like 3, 4, 5 times a week.
You should do some kind of like exercise video for people.
People have said that.
I
and
should.
People ask me all the time, like, "What do you do?" And I'll tell them, and they're like, "What do you mean? I wouldn't do that."
All right, Farrell, your famous final question, my friend.
All right. You
Here we
mentioned
go.
you
Make it
mentioned
go.
previously on the show several times, of course, you running a promotion, Mr. and Mrs. Walmart. And I am building it off Mike in the past. And I remember the first time my partner said this to me, I was horrified at the very thought of this. But I got to ask you, on the subject of Mr. and Mrs. Walmart and having that perfect wrestler to help market your brand,
Yeah.
is John Cena the last great pro wrestling star we will ever see the way things are going?
Boy, you know what? I'd hate to say that. That means that we don't bow well. I don't think so. I think that there's going to be a guy who's going to get it, and that's going to step up, and is going to be that guy.
Will it be in the direction of Mr. and Mrs. Walmart, or will it be in the direction of Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Well, Stone Cold Steve Austin was Mr. and Mrs. Walmart.
True, on the market value, but they couldn't be more different. What I'm asking is how do you think the package will be presented when that next great...
That'll be up to the performer. That's the key.
The time's also around that performer? Does that ever affect anything?
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Professional wrestling has been and always will be a mirror of modern times.
That's where we're going.
That's why the style years ago was a lot more simplistic. It was a lot more direct.
Sure.
The style can become more evolved and it can become more sophisticated, and should, because the audience today is more sophisticated, and to truly allow, because that's what they want, okay? No matter what anybody tells you, if you bought a ticket to watch wrestling, you want to believe in who that person is that you're watching.
Sure.
That's the most important thing.
Yep.
But then you want to believe that when he comes out to the ring, he's out there with one sole goal in mind, and that's to win, okay? And in order to convince that audience today that situation, you have to work on a much more sophisticated level, because they've watched UFC. They now have a better understanding of what that wrestling that you're doing down on the very mat is, and how it could lead to a submission and a possible win. Where before, back in the day, people weren't so keenly aware, because let's face it, and I've used this analogy all the time to help people understand. Football, baseball, and basketball have enormous audiences in the United States for one reason and one reason only. It's because we've all played them as kids. Okay. You've played football even if it's just in your backyard.
Sure.
You've played basketball even if it's just in the driveway. Yep. You've played baseball even if it's just at the family reunion. We've all done it. Okay? That's why NASCAR is huge. Everybody has drove a car, and everybody wants to drive fast. Okay? That's why hockey is bigger in Canada than it is in the United States, because more people played hockey as youth in Canada. That's why soccer is bigger all over the rest of the world than it was in the United States. Now that's why soccer and the World Cup of soccer are becoming more prominent, because there are more generations of children that have grown up playing soccer.
Sure.
Okay? That's why more rich old white men watch golf than any other portion of the audience, because that's what all play it are old rich white men playing golf. Okay?
Yeah.
Professional wrestling, unless you've been inside the ring, you don't know what it's like to hit the ropes. You don't know what it's like to take a bump, okay? In fact, if you ask anybody in the audience, they'll tell you that the ring's a trampoline or a mattress, or they'll tell you, oh, it's okay, they know how to fall.
Right.
Well, yeah, but you don't understand that every time we land, it hurts an enormous amount. So they're not relating to what we do.
No.
They're relating to who we are and why we're in there doing it. And that, again, back to our original conversation, is what we've departed as far as the art form is concerned so far away from, is the why of it and the selling of the who. Because when you guys were just fans, you identified with a particular wrestler. And that wrestler was your favorite because you wanted to be just like that wrestler. When you imagined yourself wrestling, you were going to use moves like that wrestler. When you imagined yourself as a wrestler, you were going to wear gear that was like that wrestler. That's where we get the term in professional wrestling, over. To get over with the audience means to make the audience want to live vicariously through you. That's a universal form of storytelling. Okay? No matter how you tell a story, there must be an antagonist, which is the heel. There must be a protagonist, which is the babyface, And the babyface, the protagonist, must be someone you identify with that you want to emulate and live vicariously through.
Right.
The reason why is so that way when the antagonist does anything to the protagonist, they've now done it to you as well. Because you feel
personal connection.
Correct.
Personal connection.
All right, well, with that, we want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Al Snow will be back with ESS Promotion. We're having a live auction.
Ah.
One interesting thing, I do have a signed picture from Rudy Rudiger.
Oh, do you
and
really?
You were in that movie,
I was
Rudy.
in movie Rudy. I met the real Rudy Rudiger.
Well,
and his family.
That picture will be up for auction
Oh,
today
God.
with your signature.
That guy is such a wonderful guy. I'm telling you.
Well,
I tell quick little story.
Go
I
ahead.
did the movie, right? Major motion picture. I get on the movie set, and everybody, all the crews that have come from all these other major films, they're all wearing these Letterman jackets for each one of these films they worked on. You know, a couple of them one guy had A League of Their Own. Somebody had, the coolest one I saw was a Days of Thunder one that had all the, like the race car patches on it and stuff.
Right.
And they were really awesome, right? And I'm like, hey, how do you get one of those? And he goes, sometimes, they'll buy them for the crew or, things like that. They'll put it in the budget. And by the end of the movie, Rudy Rudiger himself, I was told, he bought each and every one of us that were football players in the movie. It's an actual Notre Dame Letterman's jacket, but it has the gold helmet on the front that says Rudy in red, and on the back in gold letters across the back it says Rudy, a feature film. And I mean, it's
very cool.
I wear it around Simon Diamond. Only because I know it eats him up with jealousy because he's such a huge Notre Dame fan, and I have it, and he ain't going to get it.
Are you saying Simon Diamond has a problem?
He has a problem, yeah.
All right, well, you've been watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh Scene, only here out of Indie Music TV. You can catch us on YouTube, Monty and the Pharaoh page, Facebook Live on the Monty and the Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Channel 115 every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9 p.m., 6:30 in the morning. 6 a.m. in the morning. Sorry, to 6:30 in the morning on Channel 115 and on Channel 20 on Friday. Saturdays at 1:30 in the morning. I keep stepping on my words.
That's all right.
You could also catch us on RTF Sports Network. We are their anchor show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and soon to be on Amazon Prime. We want to thank you, Mr. Al Snow, for coming in. What an interview.
Thank you
what
so
an
much.
honor. And we can't wait to have you on the auction, which is coming up in a few hours. Coming up soon in about the next 5 minutes, we have Doink and Dink.
Sweet.
Should be fun.
It's going to be a blast.
All right, this is Mike Monty.
This is the Pharaoh, and until just a few minutes from now, later.
everybody? This is Gilbert! And it's your boy James Ellsworth, and you're listening to Long Island's #1 wrestling podcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. Duh.